be here and get to work. We've got a number of new players on this team, which really provides us an opportunity to grow. It's going to take some time for us to integrate everybody. That also can be an exciting process. Someone told me, when we were talking about being young a lot last year, we're the third youngest team in the league. I think Charlotte and Brooklyn are younger than us, and to me that really speaks to the same opportunity that we have, with our new players. So that can be something that I think from the beginning that we embrace, and it gets back to working hard, and we can be patient and still be urgent.
I don't know if there's, other than the opportunity to grow, what do you like exactly about this roster construction with how you have so much depth at the five and in the front court?
Yeah, I think we'll find out more and more about our team as we start to practice and play. Speaking specifically to some of our new guys, I think Nikhil gives us, another player that's capable of really defending at the point of attack, which I think is really important. Kristaps' versatility defensively, and Luke as well. I think when you think of Luke, because he shoots the ball so well, he's more than a shooter, as they like to say. So describing some of those individual characteristics, I think all those guys love to play. You can throw Ace in that bucket too. It's been fun to see his growth in a short period of time, and his enthusiasm and passion. I think, our whole group, what it does excite me is I think we've got guys that, are passionate and enthusiastic about doing the work. And that's really, what it's going to take for us to get where we want to go. Overarching with the roster, I think there's a versatility. That's something Ansi and I have talked about, and himself and his group have been able to achieve that, in a way that we haven't had that before. So that versatility, the balance, I think is also, something that is significant for us. Those different qualities, and I like to think that I think the players that we have are excited about the group as a whole, the guys that are coming back and the people we're adding. And every year, every season, you turn a page. And I think for our group tomorrow being kind of the start of a new race, a new lifetime, and really embracing that.
Coach, speaking more to the personnel there, right?
I know. This is too easy. You really have to use all this?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Speaking more to your personnel, in this league, perimeter defense is so imperative because you have so many great perimeter scorers. So when you look at guys like Nikhil, who's a new addition, and you're pairing him with Dyson, how excited are you about possibly forming one of the more ferocious perimeter defensive units in the league, especially with those two having them on the floor together at times?
Yeah, everything you said is true, and and not to diminish my enthusiasm about having those guys, I think, but it's still five guys on the court, and the best defense is everybody's defending, and they're collectively helping one another. Anytime you improve, whether it's Kristaps' ability to protect the rim in a way, you mentioned, you said it better than I could with Nikhil and Dyson. I'm excited about that. I think what happens is, like anything, players that are really good at something have the ability to raise everybody's level. And that's the way that we need to approach having those skill sets, where it's not, hey, you just stop your guy. It's still about the Hawks, getting stops. And to expand on that a little bit, our ability to make plays, to create havoc, is tremendously important for us on the other end of the floor. And that's, I think, our style of play. Any team's style of play should reflect their strengths and give you an opportunity to maximize your personnel. So part of maximizing, Nikhil and Dyson, other guys, being able to make plays and, take a one-on-one matchup is us, having an opportunity to make a team pay at the other end. And that goes to pace. It's little things. We didn't do a great job of converting last year, and we need to be better at that. That wasn't pretty all the time, whether it was errant passes or poor spacing. And I think over time that's something that you improve on, and it's important for us to improve on it. We'll circle it all the way back to, you don't have as many opportunities to do that if you don't have those guys, those on-ball defenders.
Hey, good morning, Coach. We've seen Trey grow tremendously as a leader and both on the defensive side of the ball, working with you, and since you're during your tenure, as the Hawks head coach. As you go into camp, do you have any challenges or any expectations that you'll set for Trey as the season gets ready to begin?
We had a chance, just Trey and I, to sit down last week, and I want to set the bar for him high. It's interesting when you have a player that has achieved as much as he has at a young age. I think at times you're looking for ways to get better. And you mentioned a few of them. I think the key word for Trey is efficiency. And, for him to be efficient, and for that to be the primary focus, whatever that looks like. If that looks like more of this or less of this, or however that game evolves, I think what you're going to see is Trey having to feel the game in a way to find the areas in a given game where he can contribute and be most efficient. So there's games that's going to be scoring more. There's games when he's going to be passing more. I think the constants are going to be him forcing pace and not just pushing the ball off the dribble, but passing ahead. He was one of the very best in the league, if not the best, on passing ahead. So we've talked about doing that even more, different type of passes ahead, and that's something he enjoys doing. And so helping us with our pace is a huge thing that comes every night. And again, it might be differently how he does that. And then the other thing that he's got to do every night is be efficient defensively. People attack him, and because they know it has an impact on him offensively, they try to fatigue him. And when you have a player that is as good on the ball as Dyson's been, they try to put Trey on the ball. It's like basic logic. So Trey understanding that, and taking pride in what his job is on the defensive end, again, that leads to team efficiency defensively. And one of the things we did talk about, was me challenging him. And that happens in a lot of different ways. That's not always going to be sitting up here or in a team format. It could be in film, it could be in the locker room, it could be face to face, before, after, whatever the case may be. But he wants to get better every year. I think having some other players that really can mesh with him, his ability to help pull that group together, that's going to involve, I think, the word that I like to use with Trey all the time is evolution. And to me, his leadership is about him being efficient and doing the things on the court that help our team win. You prepare off the court for those moments, but I think his efficiency on the court and him embracing that raises everybody's level. Yes.
Coach in the back. You guys have acquired Luke Kennard here in the offseason. I think a lot of folks around the league probably think he is purely a shooter because of his high shooting percentage from beyond the arc, but a role he took on in Memphis was becoming more of an offense initiator and a ball handler. Just wondering how much you envision him being kind of a ball handler and offense initiator apart from Trey, maybe less of just a spot-up shooter like many people probably still think he is.
Yeah, I guess I see him as much more than that. The only thing that I've mentioned to him, some of it is half joking, but I think he got the message, is I just want him to make sure he's taking them. I think the volume for him, and he'll get more of that. I think those opportunities, whether they can come in transition, pick and roll, off the ball, on the ball, because when you're that good at something and you're unique, you force the defense to adjust to you. And I think that's when a lot of his playmaking comes. And, you know, I don't know how many of you guys know, I've known him for a little while. You know, he was a quarterback in high school. And I think he's, you know, you find players that can make reads. You know, I wasn't like 8th grade. I'm not sure that counts. But he has the ability to see the entire floor. You know, and similar to what I was talking about with Trey and other guys as well. When you have the ball, those are opportunities to create efficiency for yourself and other people. It hasn't occurred to me at any point that he is just a shooter. You know, and I think that's something. I think our guys are going to find they like playing with him. Yes.
Coach, when you look at your roster, I know your depth's kind of only on paper right now until y'all get out there, but can you compare what you see on your depth chart to what you had in your other seasons as a head coach in the NBA?
I've been doing this a little while, and I think the one thing that's consistent is that there's, every year there's change. And I think in this case, it kind of feeds in itself. It's a little bit of a circular kind of analysis, and I think the versatility that we have is unique. You know, that may be, if I were to think back about some of the teams I've had, both here or previously, feel like we've got a lot of versatility. We have some multiple position players. We have a lot of combinations. You know, Onyeka and Kristaps, I think, can be really good together. You look at Nikhil and Dyson together. Like, you start building out those, potential combinations. You know, I think Trey is clearly, we're not going to be playing Trey power forward, so to speak, in a matchup situation. So, but his versatility is defined differently. It's a versatility of how he plays. So that's the first thing. And, honestly, his group did a terrific job of understanding that this summer and bringing players in that have the ability to mesh like that. And I think the other thing is balance. We've got some balance across our roster. I say balance, depth as well. Some of our younger guys that actually had opportunities last year because of all the injuries, had a chance to get better. And, where those players fit into a rotation, we haven't started practicing yet. I think the biggest challenge with that is, the balance between having continuity and having change, on a game-to-game basis. For our team to be as good as I think we need to be and want to be, our players have to understand that every game is different. Not just from the standpoint that minutes might fluctuate or rotations are different, but every game is potentially going to require something different of different players. But we do have the ability and have the versatility, I think, whether it be matchups or style, to play a few different ways. We've got a group that, because there are so many new guys that create new combinations, I think I mentioned earlier, I think I said that we have to be patient, understand this is a slow burn, but that doesn't mean we can't be urgent about, focusing and pursuing that.